Time to fight fear with faith. Jody Paar is a survivor who is no longer staying silent. She and her guest will fuel you up so you too can fight fear. Uplifting and inspirational stories that will rock you to your core. We don't tiptoe around the truth. We steamroll it in a bold way. This is your life, and now is the time to start living it. Get ready for the Faith Over Fear podcast with Jody Paar. Now, welcome Jody Paar to inspire you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Faith Over Fear, my podcast family. I am so excited to say that we are on the 40th episode. Wow. When I was on the 4th, I never thought I'd reach the 40th, but I'm super excited that I have. If you are new here, welcome, and you can learn more about me on my website, Jody, Jody, Paar, Paar.com. But guys, I'm so excited about my guest today because not only is he an absolutely amazing man, pure genius, I could go on and on and on, but he's also my husband. So I was thinking for this 40th episode, who would I rather have on here but my very own husband, Jim Paar. So Jim Paar, welcome. I'm so excited for everybody to learn more about you and for you to be here today. I am going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. I didn't expect to be the 40th. In fact, when you asked, you said, I'm going to have a special guest on my 40th. I didn't expect it to be me. So I'm definitely excited to, actually, I was excited and nervous to be on your podcast, believe it or not. I just did another podcast a little bit ago and as a guest, and I was more nervous about this one than that one. So thank you.
You're so welcome. And yes, absolutely. I did catch him off guard. I was like, yes, I got this perfect guest. He's absolutely amazing. His story is amazing and And he's like, well, who is it? And I was like, it's you. So go ahead and tell us the first time you felt fear.
Wow. That would be, so when I was a little child, I guess I was about I would guess that I was about 6 years old. And it's interesting because I didn't think about it till right now. The two biggest the biggest fears that I had in my life were in the same day.
Wow.
So the first time was we were at swim lessons at a YMCA, and I was just a little youngster, and the way they taught you how to swim back then is they'd throw you in the deep end, and at the YMCA in the deep end, it's a big pool, and it was definitely deep, and it was so fearful. Like it scared me to death, and I thought I was going to drown. And honestly, I had nightmares for many years after that. As a child, I always wake up like picturing myself drowning, and my dad would always say, dream about ice cream in the bottom of the pool. So, and try to make light of it. But that was something that impacted me for many years. And in that same day, as I grew up as a child actor, from when I was 6 months old, I was in a Armstrong tile commercial throwing baby food on the floor. But that same day that I was thrown into the pool, we had a casting call, and a casting call is for a commercial, movie, whatever it might be. So you go in, there's lots of kids bidding for the same spot. And me and my twin brother walked into this casting call after our swim lessons. And the question was, and when these casting calls, you go to them, as a child actor, it was intimidating. It was very difficult to walk in a boardroom of a bunch of adults, and they're sitting around this big table. A lot of adults get scared about walking into an interview by themselves without anybody else. I didn't have my mom and dad to walk in there with me. That wasn't the deal. You walked in by yourself, and typically you had a script that you had to memorize prior to walking in there that you learned in the 15 minutes of going in there. So you didn't have any time. And so in this particular interview, it wasn't a script. It was a big old hamburger. And they pushed it, and I can remember it coming at me like a mountain. And this thing was so big. And they said, take a bite of that hamburger. And it wasn't fear in this case. It was what happened after that. It was the failure of me not taking a bite of that hamburger. And the more they tried to, as a kid, think about it, the more you try to get a kid to do something, the more they're going to resist. And so for me, they kept saying, just take a bite, take a bite. And my brother had already gone in and taken a big bite because we didn't go in together as twins. And I forgot to mention that I've got an identical twin brother. That's why we're in the acting business. And so I wouldn't take a bite. And they tried and chased me around and with this big old hamburger trying to get me to take a bite of this. But I'll tell you, it impacted me for many, many years, and 30, 40 years. So I would say those are two of my most fearful times as a child, the earliest I can think of.
And I have to say this, so you felt like a failure because you didn't take a bite of this huge, ginormous hamburger, but you just went through something very traumatic as a child. You almost drowned. So you have to not continue to beat yourself up over that, because any child that would have went through that kind of trauma and then had a humongous hamburger shoved in front of their face would not have taken a bite of that. So that fear actually kept you. It wasn't a failure that was after that. It was the fact that the fear of drowning in the pool kept you from that happening. If you wouldn't have had that experience in the pool, I believe you probably would have eaten the whole entire hamburger. I mean, I know you, and you can eat. So I'm pretty sure that you would have done that. So I think that a lot of times our mindset plays on us, and it's like, oh, well, you failed because you didn't eat that hamburger. Well, no, it's not that you failed. It's that you had something traumatic happen to you before that as a child. And so therefore you were not in the mood to eat. I mean, who would be in the mood to eat? So going forward, and when I think of the word failure, I mean, that is so far from who you are because of everything that you have done. It's pretty amazing. You, as a teenager, is that when you went through paramedic school? Is that right?
Yeah, I guess I was 17. So I had Nicholas, my son, when I was young. Didn't really know about him, knew of a situation, but I ended up taking off to California, and I was a teen and left Minnesota and ended up wanting to go to med school. That was my goal, but I was going to be a paramedic and work myself through med school, but ended up going to being a paramedic in Los Angeles, and really I enjoyed it so much that I didn't go to medical school, although being a doctor would have paid a lot more money, probably had a lot more debt, but things work out the way they do.
So being a paramedic, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of fearful times in that too.
Yeah, most definitely. I can remember our first call, and I was in the front of the what I would basically call rescue squad because I worked for the fire department. And I can remember looking down at my knees as we were on the way to my first call ever, a 911 call. And they were just shaking, vigorously, like violent. It looked like a seizure. I was so terrified. I don't know if it was the adrenaline rush or the just the shock of being out there doing this, running red lights. There was just I think it was more the adrenaline than anything, but there was definitely fear in that. And but as a paramedic, my first call was a triple homicide shooting in the LA Mall.
Wow.
And then we worked a cardiac arrest moments after that. And then in that same day, delivered 3 newborn babies. And these weren't in conditions that were like in a house or in a hospital. We're talking about an alley, a back alley of a girl that was just raped and violently and gave birth in a motel room. And these were conditions that were unlike, and as a teenager, because I was still a teenager, I was like 18, 19 years old as a paramedic, those conditions really made you look at life a whole lot different, because you realized, number one, that life can end in a moment's notice like that. And we saw that. I saw that every single day, because in a person's life, in their biggest tragedy in life, I was present during thousands of tragedies. And those were memories that those impacted those people forever. And so, I saw a lot of stuff in Los Angeles, and it was definitely a city that, as they say, it's a city of a lot going on continuously.
It never sleeps.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So then from being in the medical side of things, you went into the law enforcement side, the SWAT team. I cannot imagine the kind of fear that even would be with that kind of job, where your adrenaline has got to be through the roof. And then I know you also did some other jobs with law enforcement too. And then from there, what did you do?
Yeah, I was picked from the sheriff's department to be on the SWAT team. So there was a few people that got picked for those positions due to their experience. But I got burnt out, and in that profession, being a paramedic and going to the extreme of everything I always did. And then I moved into, I had a partner that was in the restaurant business, and he said, "Do you want to partner with me 50-50? We'll buy a restaurant." He was already very successful in restaurants and the nightclub scene. And so we opened a restaurant, the St. Croix Crab House in Stillwater. And it was very successful. And it was so successful that I opened up 2 more on my own shortly after that, probably within 6 months after that. I bought another restaurant, and then I bought another one. And so enjoyed it. And then at that point, there was the hockey league went on strike, and we were in downtown St. Paul. And so what happened is our business just deteriorated at that one location. So started feeding the other businesses, or the other restaurants were feeding that business. It wasn't working out very well. So I just shut it down. And I had an idea to wrap porta potties, believe it or not. This was my first introduction into advertising. So I filed the patents. I'm like, this is such a cool idea, and came up with this idea to wrap porta potties with advertising and make them look like beer cans and different things like that. And that was very successful. But then we ran into a patent battle with a big player, big company with a lot of money. And it wasn't a battle that I wanted to take on. It was a couple-year battle, and very expensive. And finally just did some licensing rights to get out of it, and basically gave up. I just gave up, and ended up doing, right after that, like within a few weeks, created this thing called the National Clean Air Green Tour.
All right, let me stop you right there, because with the portable media that you were wrapping these porta potties, this company gets wind of it. They want to do it. They have more money. They fight you on it. They actually win. You like, I give up. You can take it. And how many years was it that you were not allowed to do anything with the portable, with that business?
5 years.
So for 5 years, you're not allowed to do anything with your say it again.
Portable media is
Thank you.
with the company.
Portable media. I know it. I'm just like, with the portable media company. And so during this time, this company's coming to you saying, hey, we'll pay you a lot of money. Tell us how you're doing this. The same
Yes.
company that basically just got you to stop everything in what you were doing has the nerve to come to you and say, hey, we can't figure this out. How are you doing this?
Yeah, they wanted me to be a consultant and offer me a lot of money, a lot of benefits, to basically be like their chief marketing officer. And I turned it down. More so, it had nothing to do with the money. It was the fact that I created it, and I did not want to let go of my baby. Right. And so they wanted me to basically say that they did it, and it didn't matter what they paid me. It could have been $3 million they were offering. It was 7 figures a year they were going to offer me. But it didn't matter what they did. It was my integrity that I wanted to keep, and it wasn't worth all the money in the world. So, and it was a pride thing. Is really what it was.
Yeah, and for 5 years you couldn't touch it or do anything with it, and then when those 5 years are up, now it's yours again.
Yeah, and within a couple of weeks of that 5 years, I did a huge deal with Paramount Pictures, a big national ad campaign. We were at like 15 or 20 football arenas in 15 different states, at these college universities, at the Rose Bowl, at the the SEC championship playoffs, and big events. And so I was able to take it off, and they never did anything with it during that time. For that 5 years, they could not figure it out.
Because they're not Genius Jim. That's why. So moving into the Clean Air Green Tour. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, really what happened with that is, and this is really kind of a takeaway from all this, is that my biggest failures in life became my biggest successes. When I shut down the restaurant and felt like a failure, I created portable media, and shortly after that, and after portable media kicked me and on the ground and kicked dirt all over me and everything else, I created the National Clean Air Green Tour, which was in 2007, when green was just a thought. It wasn't something. And so we ended up doing green marketing to our first year. We did 120 cities in 6 months. And why I did that, I don't know. I say it's like almost like I was on a mission to kill myself with marketing. And so it was a big task. We partnered with Lowe's, we partnered with Walmart. We'd set up in their parking lots. Some of our first big sponsors were Bosch Home Appliances, and built a trailer, put together this big green bus, wrapped it with advertising, and it was just a thought. And I'm like, this could be cool. We're going to do this. And it was very successful. And in fact, we were going to try to do it for 2020, and then the COVID thing hit. So obviously large events did not happen. But so 13 years later, we could still kick this off and be successful. But the whole idea was to promote sustainability, help companies go green, and show what they were doing. not necessarily in the products, but in the way they operated. And so that was something that was very successful.
Yes, I actually met you when you were doing the Clean Air Green Tour. He was at the beach doing his Clean Air Green Tour, and I live there, and that's another podcast. But that's actually, I went
Yeah.
on the road with him, and it was super interesting. I'll say that. It was a lot of fun. And I'm telling you, Jim Paar is one of the hardest workers I have ever known in my life. He's definitely a workaholic. So from the Clean Air Green Tour came Paar Media Group. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And Par Media Group was actually built off of, in a way, it was built off the Clean Air Green Tour, because I learned that there was a lot of companies that were working with agencies. And when I say companies, like Michelin, Kimberly-Clark, these are not small companies. These are Fortune 100 companies. And so I found that there was a need into doing print advertising and creative and marketing and digital space and different things like that. And so that's where Par Media Group was created. And my idea after meeting my wife, Jody, is I really didn't want to travel as much. I wanted to stay put, because when you take 4 to 6 months out of the year and you're on the road, it was very difficult to have kind of a relationship. And I love the beach and wanted to stay there. And so ended up staying there for 10 years. I built Par Media Group, is still very successful and up and running. And we work with anywhere from small to large companies. So it really doesn't matter, but it's been very successful.
And also Full Motion Marketing is another one of your businesses as well.
Yes, and that's the sustainability part of basically that's the Clean Air Green Tour, and that owns and operates the Clean Air Green Tour. So Full Motion Marketing started before Par Media Group, and really that's our green sustainability department, I guess you could per se. But that is the company that works in building these green brands and helping people go green.
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody's listening and they have a fear of starting their own business, or they want to, they really are passionate about it, but the fear is holding them back, being that you've built so many businesses and empires, what is something that you would say to them to tell them to push forward, to tell them you can do this, to tell them to chase their dreams? Like, what is advice you'd give them?
Yeah, the biggest thing, remember that you have to have failures to succeed. So the only way you're going to have those failures, because everything I've done has been built out of a failure, but the only way you're going to have those failures is to try and do something. And there's so many people out there that say, well, I'm going to try it next week, or I'm going to start it next month, or tomorrow. And I don't care if you say tomorrow like it's right now. If you say that, you're never going to get going. You have to get off the fence, get out of society, get out of the world as we have it. Forget about what everybody else is doing, because it's the 3% or the 1%, whatever you want to call it, are the people that are not afraid to do anything. And you must go outside of your comfort zone at least 5 to 10 times a day in order to be successful. There's many times that I've done things that I'm fearful, I'm scared to do it, and it's uncomfortable. Starting my YouTube channel, whatever it is, was uncomfortable for me and fearful that I was going to have haters. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't have haters, you're not doing enough. So
I right here, baby. I got to say something. I heard this. I love this. And I got to say this. Haters are confused fans.
Yes.
I love that, because it's so true. If somebody is constantly watching your YouTubes or watching you constantly and constantly, even giving you, bad feedback, they're still watching you. They're still there. So I love that. I had to put that in there. If you guys have haters, haters are confused fans. Do not let that keep you from what you're doing. Okay, sorry. I had
Yeah,
to
most definitely. And I've had comments, and you have to become an authority and build an army around you, because your army is going to be the ones that comment against those people. Don't you be the one to say, try to defend yourself. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't start something today, you're never going to do it. So, and I don't care if it's just taking 10 minutes each day to build that business. Take that 10 minutes, block it off, that every day at 12:45, I'm going to sit there and work on that business till 1 o'clock that day, and do that every single day. And you'll find out that as you do that, you'll start building that business. You'll get excited about it. And eventually you'll say, okay, I'm done with working 9 to 5, being a slave for somebody else, and I'm going to do my own business, and I know I'm going to be successful at it. But it's what you feed yourself each day to start that day. If you're turning on CNN and different mainstream media, you're going to just tarnish your brain for the rest of the day. You have to feed yourself with books that I've got, plenty of behind me, and do your devotions, whatever that might be. But that's how you need to feed yourself. Feed yourself with positivity, as Jody always says. And she's done it for me in my life. I can say that, she's my biggest cheerleader, because she's pushed me to the limit that I didn't think I could go. And even with my new company, Varexa, she was the one that says, you've got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do it, which came to me in a dream. And I just woke up one morning, started writing a 42-page business plan. And that was 18 months before this whole COVID deal. And now we're launching that company right now. So, and it doesn't mean that I'm getting rid of Par Media Group or the Clean Air Green Tour or this. Keep building businesses. You have to have those multiple sources of income. And because if one fails, you always have that one to fall back on. I didn't have that back in my day. When my restaurant failed, I had to build another business really quickly because all that income went away. So I've learned over the years that having those sustainable companies, sustaining, in a different way, not green, but just sustaining, is going to create that success for you ongoing.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, my husband, Jim, does consulting. He does these free Monday night courses or consulting classes, or however you want to say it, on the internet. And here's the thing, guys, back in the day, there was no way to get knowledge unless you paid out a ton of money. And then even then you may not get what you needed out of school. But now there's such an amount of wealth of knowledge out there for you to tap into, Jimmy has helped people start blogs. He's helped people do their own businesses. There's so many different avenues that this man has done that I'm just blown away with. But he offers free consulting and coaching and teaching. So if you feel that you're in a place where you're like, I'm ready to take that next level, then just hop on his call on Monday nights and see, what he's putting out there as far as knowledge for you, because the man is just like the poster behind. He is just like an Albert Einstein. He is so smart in what all he has learned, and he wants to share that knowledge. So Varexa is super, super exciting. We don't say a lot about that right now, but this company is going to be a game changer, and we're super excited about that. Jim, I love you, and I thank you so much for being on here. And I'm just, super proud of you and thankful for you. And I appreciate you being my 40th person on here, my 40th guest, my 40th Faith Over Fear guest. And I just want to say that I pray that this touched some people's hearts. I pray this excited you. And if you're looking to start a business, and knowing that if you did fail in the past, it doesn't mean that you have to stop. Be fueled by the fire. Keep going, keep pushing, keep believing. So real quick, Jim, tell us how everybody can follow you, and how they can find you.
Yeah. So I've got a website for me personally, jimpar.com, Paar. YouTube is youtube.com/Jim Paar. Google me, Jim Paar, and you're going to find all kinds of videos and podcasts and things that are just going to be a resource. If you want to become a part of the Monday Mastermind, I always say in marketing, if you know marketing, you have a lot of power in building any business. So just reach out to Jody and I can get your email and connect you into that. It is a closed group, but just Google me. Instagram is Jim Paar, and I just appreciate being on this 40th podcast, and so excited. So thank you.
You are so welcome. And guys, I will link all of the different websites below if you'd like to check any of those out that you've heard in this podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.